What's up, party people? It's Crypto Cronkite, and today we're going to talk about XRP. They just hit a new all-time high, third time this has happened, and we're going to go over some recent developments and why they matter and what to watch for. So some XRP ledger upgrades that have happened. Ethereum compatibility with XRP EVM sidechain launched back on June 30th. Regulated permission, DEX, and wormhole interoperability has been added. So why this matters, these upgrades expand XRP Ledger's utility, now compatible with Ethereum smart contracts, enabling regulated financial institutions to use XRP's DEX and linking the XRP Ledger to other chains for seamless cross-chain transactions. So how this could impact the price, you're going to have more functionality, more developers, users, and liquidity, and this strengthens demand for XRP as the fuel for transactions and settlements. Some institutional moves also. Back on July 9th, BNY Mellon appointed as custodian for Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin reserves. That's a strong institutional endorsement. Also, Open Paid partnership back on July 2nd allows businesses to seamlessly convert between fiat and Ripple stablecoin through API integrations. Also, back in May, Ripple secured deals with ZM Bank and Mamo Bank in the UAE after Dubai licensing, expanding XRP-powered cross-border payments into key corridors. So again, these institutional endorsements and partnerships legitimize Ripple's ecosystem, driving trust, enterprise use, and potential sustained XRP demand. A lot of regulatory tailwinds have been transpiring. Ripple dropped its SEC cross appeal back in June this year, clearing a multi-year legal cloud. And they also applied for U.S. bank charter and Fed master account on July 2nd. And then the Genius Act and Clarity Act did advance in Congress, and that's going to improve regulatory clarity for crypto in the U.S. So again, regulatory clarity lowers perceived legal risk, encouraging institutional adoption and investment. And that really positions XRP into a possible re-rating. Some XRP ETF timelines that have happened and that are upcoming. Remember that Canadian spot XRP ETFs launched on June 18th, and that was originally the first in North America. Back on July 18th, you have the ProShares Leverage XRP ETFs launch. Other US ETF filings to pay attention to, there's Volatility Shares and Tuttle, and they're targeting decisions between July 21st and July 25th. Bloomberg analysts expect spot XRP ETF decisions by October of this year. So ETFs make it easier for mainstream investors to access XRP, typically driving inflows and improving liquidity. A U.S. spot XRP ETF approval later this year could unlock significant new demand. And then some factors in the public sector. Ripple has been engaging with 5 central banks just this quarter, a couple in Colombia and Japan, just to name a few countries. Right now, the Bank of Japan explicitly ruled out XRP Ledger for near-term digital yen use. So no major central banks have formally adopted Ripple Tech as of July, but central bank adoption would drive massive institutional scale demand. But while Ripple is in discussions right now, there are no firm commitments yet. This remains a long-term opportunity rather than a near-term driver. Also, Ripple acquired a minority stake in Bitstamp. Now, if you're not familiar with Bitstamp, that's one of Europe's largest exchanges, which enhances XRP's liquidity potential and market integration. And in Japan and Korea, Web3 incubators have launched with Ripple-backed $15 million seed funds aimed at growing XRP-based projects in Asia. Now, these investments could strengthen XRP's regional adoption and increase ecosystem footprint, supporting demand over time. Some key catalysts to pay attention to, in particular XRP ETF launches and SEC decisions. That's going to be critical short-term catalysts that's going to drive up price in either direction. August 13th through the 15th, you're going to see the final SEC versus Ripple court hearing. That resolution should definitely shift sentiment. And July 30th, you're going to have the Federal Reserve meeting. Macro backdrop can influence crypto markets broadly, so we'll see if they're going to drop interest rates. But as I said many times, they don't do it in July. The next opportunity is going to be in September. And one last caveat that no one is really talking about is Tether. Now, the Genius Act would require stablecoins used in the U.S. to be fully reserved, regularly audited, and regulated under U.S. jurisdiction. Now, Tether, which is the 4th largest cryptocurrency in the world based off market cap right now, is a foreign issuer that's not regulated here in the United States. That would likely fall outside this framework, limiting its use by U.S.-based exchanges and institutions. Now, how does this impact Ripple? If the U.S. exchanges were to reduce or remove tethered trading pairs, liquidity could shift towards compliant alternatives like USDC, which is Circle, and Ripple's stablecoin. Ripple's stablecoin, backed by BNY Mellon, is well positioned to capture market share in a post-tether U.S. market. This shift could strengthen XRP's role as a bridge asset and bolster Ripple's ecosystem as regulated liquidity becomes more valuable. A U.S. crackdown on Tether would likely drive liquidity toward compliant stablecoins like RLUSD, indirectly benefiting Ripple and XRP's adoption in regulated markets. So the bottom line is, pay attention to what's going on with Tether. Also, clear U.S. regulation, major institutional endorsements, new tech upgrades on the XRP Ledger ecosystem, and growing ETF pipelines could all factor into XRP's growth. But volatility remains tied to ETF decisions, court rulings, and Ripple's token management practices, and central bank adoption is still in exploratory stages, with the Bank of Japan explicitly being cautious for the moment. XRP is positioned for institutional adoption and broader use cases, but investors should monitor near-term catalysts closely, particularly ETF approvals later this month and the final court hearing in mid-August. And that's the way it is. I'm Crypto Cronkite. Hit subscribe to stay on top and be ready for that next drop.